Did you see the news headline this morning about the International Digital Art Competition, Jason? A human artist was denied the first place prize because the judges discovered that his winning painting was actually generated by an artificial intelligence program.
Yes, I read that exact article. The entire art community is having a heated debate about it. Many traditional painters are extremely angry because they believe using an algorithm to generate an image in 5 seconds is fundamentally unfair to artists who spend months perfecting their manual skills.
I can completely understand why traditional artists feel frustrated and betrayed. Creating a painting requires years of dedication, technique, emotional vulnerability, and physical labor. When a computer program generates a visually stunning image instantly, it feels like it is devaluing human effort.
That is certainly one perspective, Sarah. But let us look at the other side of the argument. Isn't art ultimately about the final visual result and the emotional response it evokes in the viewer? If an image makes you feel awe, sadness, or wonder, does it really matter whether it was painted with a physical brush or generated by code?
It matters immensely to me, Jason. Art is not merely a pretty image on a screen or a canvas. It is a form of communication between two human souls. When I look at a famous painting, I am appreciating the artist's personal history, their emotional state, their struggles, and their unique worldview. A machine does not possess feelings, consciousness, or lived experiences.
That is true, but artificial intelligence does not work in a vacuum either. The AI program learns by analyzing millions of existing artworks created by real human beings throughout history. Therefore, one could argue that AI art is simply a collective reflection of all human creativity combined into a new digital medium.
Or you could argue that it is sophisticated digital plagiarism. The AI is essentially taking patterns from real artists without their explicit permission or financial compensation, mixing them together and producing a synthetic copy.
To be fair to the technology, it does not simply cut and paste pieces of existing images together like a photo collage. The algorithm analyzes mathematical relationships between visual concepts, colors, lighting, and textures. When a user types a written text prompt, the AI creates a brand new image pixel by pixel from scratch.
But the fundamental point remains: the computer program does not understand what it is creating. When an AI draws a crying child or a majestic sunset, it does not know what sadness feels like, nor has it ever witnessed a real sunset in the physical world. It is simply processing numerical data and statistical probabilities.
I agree that the machine itself lacks consciousness and emotion. However, what about the person who writes the text prompt? Crafting a detailed, imaginative prompt to guide the AI toward a specific artistic vision requires a lot of creativity, vocabulary, and aesthetic judgment.
Is typing a descriptive sentence into a search box really equivalent to being an artist, Jason? If I describe a magnificent palace to a master architect and he builds it, I am the client or the director, but I am certainly not the architect or the builder.
That is a very clever analogy, Sarah. But think about photography when it was first invented in the 19th century. Back then, traditional portrait painters argued that pressing a button on a camera was not real art because the machine did the work instead of a human hand. Yet today, photography is universally recognized as a legitimate artistic art form.
That is a classic argument, but there is a major difference. A photographer still has to travel to a real physical location, wait for the perfect natural light, compose the shot carefully, and capture a genuine moment of reality. An AI user simply sits in an office chair and types words into a generator.
This debate brings us to a fundamental philosophical question. How do we actually define what art is? Throughout history, the definition of art has shifted dramatically depending on the era, culture, and available technology.
For centuries, art was defined by technical skill and realistic representation, how accurately a painter could depict a king or a landscape. But when cameras were invented, artists stopped trying to imitate reality and started exploring abstract emotions, which led to movements like Impressionism and Cubism.
Exactly. And perhaps artificial intelligence is pushing us toward the next evolutionary stage of art. Maybe AI will force human artists to abandon simple visual aesthetics and focus on deeper human concepts, philosophy, and performance art that machines cannot replicate.
I hope you are right, Jason, but I worry about the commercial consequences. Many commercial illustrators, graphic designers, and book cover designers are losing their jobs right now because corporations prefer using free AI tools instead of hiring human professionals. When efficiency and cost reduction become the primary goals, society risks losing the rich human diversity that makes culture vibrant.
I share your concern regarding the economic impact on working creative professionals. It is heartbreaking to see talented individuals struggle because of rapid technological disruption. However, throughout history, every technological revolution has eliminated certain traditional jobs while simultaneously creating entirely new industries.
But which new creative jobs will AI create for artists? So far, it seems like it is taking away the creative work and leaving humans with repetitive administrative tasks, which is the exact opposite of what technology was supposed to do.
Another critical aspect of this issue is the legal debate surrounding copyright and intellectual property. Right now, courts around the world are struggling to decide who actually owns the rights to an AI-generated image.
In my opinion, nobody should be allowed to copyright an AI image. Since the program was trained on millions of copyrighted artworks by living artists without paying them royalties, the output should belong to the public domain, or the original artist should be compensated.
Several major lawsuits are currently active against technology companies for this exact reason. Many artists are demanding that their names and signatures be removed from the dataset training files, so the AI cannot mimic their specific individual styles.
Can you imagine dedicating 20 years of your life to developing a unique, recognizable painting style, only to find out that anyone can type your name into a generator and create thousands of identical images in your style for free? That must feel violating.
It certainly creates an ethical dilemma. On the other hand, human artists have always borrowed inspiration from other artists. Vincent van Gogh studied Japanese woodblock prints, and Pablo Picasso was deeply inspired by African sculptures. No human artist creates work in total isolation without being influenced by others.
That is true, Jason. But human influence involves learning, interpreting, filtering through personal experience, and transforming those influences into something original. AI does not get inspired. It ingests data and calculates outputs. There is no soul or lived experience in that process.
The debate is not limited to visual arts either. Generative AI is now writing short stories, poetry, movie scripts, and even composing complex classical symphonies and pop music songs.
Have you listened to any of those AI-generated songs recently? They might sound catchy on a technical level, but the lyrics often feel hollow and repetitive when you pay close attention.
I agree that most AI literature and music currently lacks depth, but the technology is improving at an exponential rate. 5 years ago, AI could barely generate a coherent paragraph. Today, it can write an entire essay that passes university exams.
That rapid speed of development is precisely what makes people feel uneasy. If a machine can write a love song or a sad novel, how can we tell if the emotions we feel while listening or reading are genuine? Or if we are simply being manipulated by an algorithm?
Is emotional manipulation by an algorithm necessarily a bad thing if the end result gives comfort or joy to a listener? Think about cinema. We know that movies are fake stories played by paid actors with special effects, yet we still cry and laugh in the theater because the story resonates with us.
But behind a movie, there is a human director, a human screenwriter, and human actors who genuinely understand those emotions. That human element is the invisible thread that connects the audience to the story.
What if we stop viewing artificial intelligence as a replacement for human artists and instead view it as a powerful collaborative tool? Just like electric guitars, synthesizers, and digital photo editing software were initially resisted before becoming standard tools.
That is a more optimistic perspective. If an artist uses AI during the brainstorming phase to generate rapid visual ideas, and then takes those ideas to paint a real canvas by hand, that could be a productive collaboration.
Precisely. Many contemporary digital artists are already using AI as an intelligent digital assistant to experiment with lighting, camera angles, and color palettes before beginning their actual artistic work. It speeds up their workflow significantly.
As long as the human remains the primary creative decision maker and driver of the process, I have fewer objections. My main objection is when people generate an image entirely with code, claim full artistic credit, and try to sell it as authentic human art.
Transparency is key here. Just like packaged food labels must list ingredients, perhaps digital art platforms should require a mandatory label stating whether an artwork was created by a human, an AI, or a combination of both.
That would be a very sensible regulations policy. It would allow consumers and collectors to make informed choices about what kind of art they want to support financially. You know, Jason, the more perfect and flawless AI art becomes, the more I find myself appreciating human imperfection.
That is a fascinating thought, Sarah. What do you mean by human imperfection in art?
Think about a live musical performance where a guitarist's voice breaks slightly because of raw emotion, or a handmade ceramic vase with asymmetrical lines, or a painting where you can see the visible, uneven texture of individual brushstrokes. Those tiny flaws are proof of human presence.
That is a brilliant point. Algorithms produce hypersymmetrical, smooth, and statistically perfect images, but perfect symmetry can often feel cold, artificial, and devoid of personality.
Exactly. Human art is captivating precisely because humans are flawed, mortal, and vulnerable. A computer program cannot experience heartbreak, grief, joy, or mortality, so its creations will always lack that authentic human spark.
It seems that the rise of artificial intelligence might ironically make us value genuine human craftsmanship even more than before. People might pay a premium price for 100% human-made art, similar to how people pay more for organic food or handmade leather goods today.
I sincerely hope that happens. That would be a wonderful silver lining to this technological revolution. A renewed cultural appreciation for real human effort, patience, and authentic soul.
So, looking ahead toward the next decade, do you think AI will eventually dominate the cultural landscape, or will it remain a temporary trend?
I believe AI technology is here to stay, and it will inevitably become an integrated part of our digital infrastructure. However, I do not believe it will ever fully replace the human desire to express ourselves manually.
Why are you so confident about that, Sarah?
Because humans do not create art merely to consume a final product. We create art because the process of creation itself is therapeutic, fulfilling, and essential to our psychological well-being. People will always paint, write, and play music for the pure joy of doing it.
That is a deeply reassuring thought. Even if a computer can paint better than 99% of humans, people will still pick up paintbrushes because the physical act of painting brings inner peace and personal meaning.
Absolutely. Just like people still enjoy running marathons, even though cars and motorcycles can move much faster. The value is in the human experience, effort, and journey, not just reaching the finish line.
We have explored so many interesting angles today, Sarah. It seems we agree that while AI is an impressive technological achievement and a useful productivity tool, it cannot replicate the authentic emotional depth of human consciousness.
Yes, and we both recognize that copyright protection, fair compensation for artists, and visual transparency are urgent issues that our legal systems need to address immediately.
This conversation really made me realize that the debate about AI art is not really about computers at all. It is fundamentally a debate about what makes us human and why we value creative expression in the first place.
Well said, Jason. Technology acts as a mirror, forcing us to re-examine our own values, priorities, and definitions of culture.
Well, Sarah, this was an incredibly stimulating discussion. I feel like I learned a lot from your perspective today.
Me too, Jason. Engaging in thoughtful debates about technology and culture is always so rewarding.
To our listeners out there, what do you think? Is AI-generated content real art or just a digital copy? We would love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you all for listening to Vocedia today. Don't forget to practice your English listening skills, stay curious, and keep learning.
Have a wonderful week ahead, everyone. Take care and goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. See you in the next episode.